Is religiosity a psychological blind spot or a neurological disorder? I guess it depends. And who am I to judge? Okay, I've got my psychological blind spots, and God knows what my neurological disorder is. Okay, I'll say it. I'm a 45-year-old man wearing a wrestling mask with a fake mustache on YouTube. Delusional enough to think that I'm going to make a living off my paintings. That's right. Now, before I get into this very deep philosophical and even psychological conundrum that, hey, by the way, all seriousness, really affects society and how we function. Before I get into all that, these paintings are for sale. But if you cannot afford them, because, hey, just because my name is free doesn't, hey, I got to make a living too, okay? The videos are free, but the artwork, come on. Now, anyway, terrible, terrible, shameless sales pitch, but I got to go on now. It's live. That's it. Fuck it. I'm going. These are the originals, but I've got t-shirts and prints for sale in the links down below. Okay. And I've also got these, right? Now, these are one of a kind. You're not going to find these at Teespring or any of the other links I have. These t-shirts and the other ones that I do have, which I'm going to share the screen really quick. These homegrown t-shirts could be yours for a mere $25 donation, which you get for free. $25 donation to my PayPal account, and the links down below gets you one of these t-shirts with free shipping. That's right. Anyway, look, I'm sorry for the shameless sales pitch. Like I said, I'm terrible at this, but I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to make a living one way or another. So let me stop with that shit and get back to this. Now, oh, by the way, I just want to show this one off. This one's worth showing off. This is one of the ones you can get for Teesprings. This is Think Outside Your Tribe, which ties into this whole thing with whether religiosity is a psychological blind spot or a neurological disorder. Because you see, we are social creatures and we've evolved to think within our tribes. So that's how we've managed to survive on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. And the way the genes would procreate among our species is people who would actually conform to whatever the tribe wanted, or whatever the tribe, especially the tribal leaders. Those are the ones that got to propagate their genes. Independent thinkers and whack jobs like me probably got killed. If you were out on your own, you couldn't survive. And I think with that type of group think that just evolved, therein came the religiosity. And that's why I think so many people find it very hard to think outside their tribe. By the way, the letters here, it says think outside your tribe. And if you don't believe me, look, check out this animation. I got to share the screen first. I swear to God. God exists. Look at that. Think outside your tribe. Think outside your tribe. Think outside your tribe. Enough of that. I am curious to see what other people think in terms of whether religiosity is a psychological blind spot or a neurological disorder. And let me make sure that this is muted. 4 people are already watching. Who thinks I'm full of shit? Well, you weren't lying when you hinted at it being one. Thanks for tuning in, Ernest. Appreciate it. Well, what say you about that? About as far as religion being a psychological blind spot or a neurological disorder? It's got to be one or the other. And before I start inviting people in, one of the things that I wanted to show, one of the things that really sparked this in me to think, oh my God, this is clearly there's a problem with religiosity is, again, I got to share the screen here. What has happened over in Paris, California, with this couple that had their children. Look at the look on the mother's face. And by the way, I'm not trying to make light of the situation. I think it's horrible. That's the mother. This is the father of the 13 kids that they had. They were holding hostage, 13 of their kids. And of course, what did they think? That God told them to have those kids. It's a highly religious family. And I mean, just, and here it is, face again. Again, I'm not trying to make fun of these people. It's just, it's heartbreaking, actually. It's heartbreaking to see how some people just flip their shit like this. And the guy, the father, if I'm not mistaken, he was an engineer for Lockheed Martin at one point. And maybe the pressure got to him. I don't know if the religiosity, because that's the thing, that whole pressure of just keeping your own tribe. I mean, God knows this guy had his own tribe of 13 kids. The pressure of trying to sustain a family like that probably just really got to them. But what probably made them think that they had to have that many kids was the religion. I got to switch out of this. I feel like the guy's staring at me. And I know it's easy to just poke at the wildest stories you see in the news and just say, you see, that's the problem. That's, if you're going to pick out those people, but those people aren't following religion the way it should be followed. Bullshit. Look, I'm gonna. It's a little bit of nervous energy I've got, but I'm gonna learn how to ride this out. Anyway, look. I am going to share the screen with one of my favorite conservative commentators, Ben Shapiro, who I think he is the classic example of religiosity being a psychological blind spot. In his case, I don't think it's a neurological disorder. In the case of David Allen Turpin, I believe that's the name of the father who had 13 of his kids held hostage. I think something went off in the brain. I think after a while, maybe psychological disorders can create some sort of neurological malfunction. But I am no psychologist nor a neurologist. I don't even have a bachelor's degree in art, but I don't need one. I'm pretty talented, I think. And that's not God's gift, by the way. That's just some weird shit, that the way my brain works. Anyway, here is an example of a psychological blind spot by an incredibly intelligent human being, Ben Shapiro. Listen to this. Let me see if I can get this here. Share. Let it rip, Ben.
Similar model. And the problem is, where are you getting this free will stuff in a materialistic universe in which you're just a random assemblage of atoms? Like, where's this free will coming from? Where do you get that? And how do you square that with a materialist version of reality? I think that the best proof of God, I've always said this, I think the best proof of God to me is is sort of a Cartesian notion that you are a thinker, you are a being.
I can acknowledge myself.
Right. You are a self, right? You're not just a random assemblage of stuff that wakes up new every morning. And that if you have a hamburger, you're a different person than you were 1 minute before because you just put some new stuff in your body, right? This is the notion that you are a coherent human being with the capacity to think and the capacity to control your behavior and the capacity to change. That's the basis of all of civilization. You take away that basic Augustinian notion of free will and it's all over.
Is not the proof of anything. It's not a proof of anything. Just, I think, therefore I am. That must mean that there is a supreme being, and let alone a supreme being by the name of Yahweh, who sent down his one and only son, who's supposedly himself down to earth to be sacrificed and like murdered on a cross for our sins. Really, that's just, I think, therefore I am, so there must be this God. No. And the whole thing with free will, you want to talk about free will and the religiosity of that family that held their 13 children hostage. I think the psychological blind spot comes in the fear that most people have, particularly people like Ben Shapiro, and God knows what fear must have been crossing the father of those 13 children. The fear of accepting how difficult and scary life can be, especially since all evidence leads to the fact that life is just random. I'm no St. Augustine, okay? I'm not a philosopher. And by the way, St. Augustine had some pretty fucking kooky ideas too. Okay, from what I understand, that guy also, along with all his philosophical fucking writings and all that shit, he actually thought that demons would get into certain priests. If I'm not mistaken, that it were demons that were causing priests or men of faith to have sexual desires in the middle of the night. Really, it's not just our physical makeup that causes us to actually have sex and procreate and have children. I mean, I think that's the problem with most religious people. They have a really hard time accepting that this is all random, and yeah, nothing really, there is nothing stating that freedom and peace and self-responsibility and accountability and everything that makes a civilization hum the way it does here in the United States, as opposed to, let's say, the Dark Ages in Europe. Or, you don't have to go to the Dark Ages, just fucking go to the Middle East right now. The difference between those two things, it's not a God. It's not, there's not something outside of matter and energy that's kind of holding it all together here in the United States and yet not in the Middle East. It's not demons. It's just it's a concentrated effort by most people, and I think by most non-religious people actually, to keep it together. And what is it that keeps, the whole thing with free will? And I know it's difficult for someone like Ben Shapiro and myself even right now. I'm like almost stumbling over my words. What is it that keeps us from murdering and all that? Plain and simple, man. It's just survival. The rule of law to begin with. But let's say you want to completely disregard the rule of law. It's just plain and simple survival. You can't go around killing every single person you wish. Some people have tried. There's plenty of serial killers. They always get caught. They always get stopped. At one point, sometimes they stop themselves to top it off. And I think that's where the psychological blind spot comes in. Let me see what the comments are. I'm wondering if I'm making any sense, because I can really feel, let me see, the pressure of having that haircut. Nachi, I'll argue you, man. Okay, I know you want to jump in. All right, what the fuck? And MC, you know what? I'm going to let you guys in. Feel free to fucking destroy. I'm on the cusp, before I bring people in, I feel like I'm on the cusp of explaining how life actually works. And sometimes even Sam Harris can't seem to do it in a very simple way, because they complicate it with the teleological and all these other terms. Dude, it's not that difficult to just accept that life just is. I mean, and after all, if everything had to be created by God, then who created God? I mean, that's an old one. That's an old little twist on the whole thing. I will stay in chat, Nachi. I don't blame you. Let me let Ernest in at least. I need to have a discussion with somebody. And curious to see. Curious to see if you could help me, because I know this person that I'm about to invite in, they're religious, and they swear. They swear by, I'm still reading the comments. They swear by God, and they just, and I'm curious to see what it is. Why do you need to hold on to it? I personally grew up Catholic, but ever since I was a kid, the contradictions are, you can't ignore them. And I remember the very first one, from kindergarten already, I could tell there was something wrong. When I was told, we're all God's children, but Jesus Christ is his one and only son. And I was like, hey, wait a second. Isn't that like a binary choice? I didn't even know the word binary back then, but I was like, there's something. Can both of these things be true at the same time? We're all God's children, but Jesus is his one and only son. And they were like, oh, but you see, the thing is that Jesus is God himself. And I was like, what? Now you're throwing in that for a loop. Now there's another thing that contradicts itself. Jesus is God's only son, but he's God himself. What the fuck? And it doesn't take much. I mean, it took me a long time, actually. Let me rephrase that. It took me a long time to get over that, to get over those hurdles, because, of course, they throw more hurdles your way. And then the very next hurdle after that is, of course, the Holy Trinity. Oh, but you don't understand. It's all part of the great mystery of the Holy Trinity. It's God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I'm like, is the Holy Spirit the grandfather or something? No, and don't you dare blaspheme against the Holy Spirit. That is a one-way ticket to hell. And I mean, come on. It took me until my 20s, because they really fuck with your head, especially if you grow up Catholic. And I don't know, there's different flavors of Catholicism. I grew up with the Hispanic Catholicism. And then even then, you've got by region and by country. I grew up Cuban Catholic. Mexican Catholics are a little different. And needless to say, we're very different from the Irish Catholics and from the Italian Catholics. Is it wrong to say Italian? Anyway, I just did. Does somebody else want to jump in here? I've got the, let me see. My wife is of the opinion that have let go or are unable to have a belief in God. And that's just an my wife is of the opinion that people that have let go or are unable to have a belief in God are just the next evolutionary step. Perhaps, I guess. But this has been going on for quite some time. There's been quite a few atheists for centuries, if not millennium. But usually they would be killed. And they would be silenced straight away because religion, well, power abhors a vacuum. And religion seems to abhor that vacuum too. Religion manifests itself in the form of that power. And it did with the Holy Roman Empire. It did with Islam. And Islam is still trying to. You see, and that's what it is. It really boils down to just some people who want to be in control of everything. And that's a natural instinct. It's a survival mechanism. I'm trying to understand, or I'm trying to learn how to accept dealing with that. I'm not going to get into a whole thing with Fidel Castro and shit, but I have been listening to the audiobook of The Dictator's Handbook. And that I cannot recommend that enough. That is, and I'm going to end up buying the book. That's how good that book is. It's not enough to just listen to it. You want to like actually see the graphs. You want to read all the stats and the data that the author brought in. And reading that really has opened my eyes to number one, a lot of things that I kind of already instinctively knew. Again, for example, with Castro, when people are like, nobody had the free healthcare and free education. And I always just instinctively knew, of course, you got to give something back to the people, you fucking dipshits, you fucking Bernie Sanders supporting fuckwads. Of course, every dictator has to give something back. Few are the ones that can get away with like Idi Amin or Mobutu, I think, that they can just literally just start slaughtering and just killing and fucking their entire economy turns to shit, but they manage to somehow stay in power. And the way they do it is just they continue killing fucking people. They're fearsome human beings. And again, I think that's where the psychological blind spot of the religious people come in. It's very hard to accept that this is how life actually works. But the sooner we accept this, the sooner we could solve these problems. That's why I think it's worth talking about this and having a live stream that only 8 people are watching. And probably for all I know, I'm going to lose even more subscribers after this. And that's the problem. Look, here's another thing. Here's another little call out that I have to put out there. If I don't have 1,000 subscribers by February 20th, I lose my monetization on YouTube. Fucking shit. Now, I don't know if that's irreversible. I hope it's not. I hope that maybe later on, if I do get 1,000 subscribers, if I get 10,000 subscribers somehow, some way, that I'll get the monetization back. But even if I don't get the monetization, I still want to talk about these things. I still want to communicate these things. And I know I'm not the only one. But there can't be enough people out there because that's the problem. Everybody thinks within their fucking tribe. And that's the thing. If more people manage to grow this choir of reality, okay? Maybe the religious people, because the religious people are starting to dwindle. They're starting to be like, okay, they know they're losing all the arguments. They know they're losing them all. I think some of the few that are still like holding on to those arguments are people like Ben Shapiro. You know, and Ben Shapiro, clearly he's within his tribe. Okay, now that's not an anti-Semitic remark. Okay, it's nothing against his yarmulke. Good for him. If I had to pick a religion, somebody put a gun to my head and said, pick a religion. I'd be, okay, you know what? I'm Jewish. Because Judaism is the only faith that I respect, because almost all of my Jewish friends and colleagues and almost every Jewish person I've known is atheist. They know it's bullshit too. They're not waiting around for a fucking Messiah. Much less are they fucking accepting that Jesus Christ was one. let alone fucking Mohammed. But whatever. Is that anyway? Nobody watches my video, so it doesn't matter if I say fucking Mohammed. Though probably the YouTube bots are gonna probably fucking do something. You fucking cunts. And that's another sad thing. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I think it's so sad that YouTube is such an amazing platform for communication and for getting the truth out there. And you got all these fucking little pussies working at YouTube and at Twitter and at Facebook trying to fucking silence it. They have no problem signing. That's the weird thing. They have no problem. Jesus jokes. Oh, all the fucking Jesus jokes you want to throw in there and stuff. That's fine. You want to talk anti-Israel? Apparently, because that's another weird psychological blind spot that a lot of these people, I wouldn't say they're on the left. And I wouldn't blame them as being liberal either, because I definitely consider myself liberal. As a matter of fact, I believe do not tread on weed. Again, this shirt is for sale. Through PayPal, but whatever. Look, I don't want to shamelessly promote that right now. The point that I was trying to make is that you got all these people that got their own psychological blind spots working at YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and they're trying to shadow ban people like me. Man, I'm in that little dark corner. I'm in the dunce corner with my fucking finger over my mouth. That's what they're trying to do. Trying to keep people from talking about things that are offensive. Because, like I said, you can talk, you can make all the Jesus jokes you want, you can criticize Israel all you want, but don't you dare fucking say anything about Islam. Oh, no, not that one. Not the most toxic, dangerous, lethal ideology that there is out there. The one that should be the proof of the psychological blind spot and the neurological disorders that I'm trying to talk about here. I guess nobody wants to jump in. Here, I'm going to put it out one more time. Sikhism is the only modern religion I respect. Communist in space, of course. Only a communist in space would say that. Look, I respect no religions. Well, bullshit. They are, dude. I'm sorry. They are, and especially communism, okay? You look, you know what? Jump in here. Look, I'm going to put out the fucking link one more time. I'm clearly not making money off these fucking videos. I'll be lucky if I sell a damn t-shirt. Fuck it. But I'm only going to be doing this until 10 o'clock Eastern time. I can't let this turn out to be this, just sprawling fucking live stream, because that's why nobody's subscribing to my channel. They're saying that the majority of my videos now are being live streams, and they're like, oh, fuck this shit. But here's Hellbound Heathen. The link is broken. What? Let me see. Hold on a second. Google Hangouts. Try that one. Read the chat, you freaking Cuban. I'm trying to. I am trying to. Well, close this. See, what am I missing here? The link is broken. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Is it still broken? The video is clearly working right now. Still broke in. Why? Here's the chat. Right. Invite people. I see BDFQ. Links don't work well in chat anymore. YouTube sucks. Oh, is that it? Probably. Here, I'm gonna. Okay, well, you guys are obviously listening to what I'm saying, which thank you, by the way. I'm going to actually Twitter it to a couple of you guys here. DM you the link. Okay, so Ernest got it DM'd. I'm going to go to Hellbound Heathen because I'm definitely curious to see what he has to say about that, about what I'm talking about. I might have to actually email him. Inbox. I'm going to scratch myself there, sorry. Hey, Hellbound. Here is the link. Okay, so Hellbound's got the link through your email, and I just sent it out to Ernest. So I'm curious to see what's going on. Why can't people jump in? I wonder if there is something going on.
There we go.
There we go. Now you're in. Cool. And now let me see.
Yeah.
Hey, Hellbound. I just did. All right. So what say you? Because I know you're. Well, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Well, I'm not like a hardcore religious guy, man. Like I'll be right out there. Like I'm not going to come off with this pious hypocrite. But I mean, I have a certain amount of faith and belief. Like I mean, I do believe there's a God. Now, everything in Christianity, do I believe it? No, because I've had a priest tell me that don't believe everything you read in the Bible. Like a literal priest, and he was a Monsignor, so he kind of knew what he was talking about. So, to an extent, like I'm more of a cultural, I guess. I guess maybe the term is cultural Christian. I mean, I like to follow a good example of being a good and generous person, helping out when I can. I also believe that it can be comforting in a sense, and I think that's what it is because the reason. Oh,
what's up, Hellbound? Go ahead. You were because what you're describing is the very psychological blind spot that I'm talking about.
And yes, and I understand that.
Hey,
this is a bit out of my.
What's up, man?
Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold.
No, that's cool.
No, no, but like I mean, this is a bit out of my depth because I'm usually more the political guy, but I'll try to branch out into my religious ideas a bit, I guess. Definitely believe in Scientology. Just kidding. I don't want to get attacked by them. I know they're pretty feisty buggers.
By the way, speaking of psychological blind spots,
yeah.
Scientology. I mean, wow.
No, that one there is a mental disorder. I don't know anyone who could even believe a quarter of that shit because it's literally nonsense. Like I mean, it at least even reasonably believable. I mean, it's reasonably okay to an extent. No, I might as well believe that Cthulhu's going to come out of the water and give me like a bag of donuts. That would be
in defense of Scientology. It's just about as legitimate as any other religion, if you think about it.
Oh man, no, it's barely. I mean, it's an obvious and blatant money making scheme. Like it's worse than Christianity. I mean, at least in Christianity, when you go to church, they give you the option to give them money. They don't say like, listen, if you want to move up the ranks in our church, you've got to start donating. In Scientology, it's like, listen, do you want to get your operating thetans up? $1,536 and change, and we don't give refunds.
Yeah, but I guess it's just my position. I think it's just as crazy as any other religion.
Well, I can understand, but I mean, I'm sure we can all agree that one at the very least is definitely a mental disorder. I mean, that Scientology is just ludicrous.
Well, you could say that about a Jewish zombie that rises after 3 days and performs all these miracles. I mean, it's just
the Muslim fellow or the Arab guy who randomly jumped on a flying horse and landed in Israel.
Exactly.
And then went up to heaven.
The only thing about Scientology is that you could it's demonstrably proven within our lifetime that this guy, it stems from L. Ron Hubbard, who was a science fiction writer.
The only one at that.
The only one probably the same. Sorry, I was just going to say probably the same thing that happened in the first century CE. Probably the same thing. They're like running around seeing this Christian cult. They're like, can you believe that they believe all this stuff based around blah blah blah, whatever was going on that we don't know about that happened back then, and they're just like shaking their head.
Yeah, well, for sure.
I mean, listen, the only thing downside about Christianity is that it ruined all the, Roman and Greek pantheon of fun. Back then, I mean, religion was fantastic. You could get drunk, have random sex, and party all the time. And then Christians came along. We're just like, anymore. This is wrong. They were like the social justice warriors of their time. It was this is fun. It's not allowed. He's watching us. Be good.
Yeah.
The Romans tried to fix it. I mean, they had lions and gladiators, and that. They were just like, listen, we'll send them out to the wolves, and it just for some reason didn't seem to work. But I'll say this. By the way, I'm glad you brought up Saint Augustine. And Nachi, I've actually read the Confessions, and it's actually it's actually a pretty good book. Slightly saucy because all he does is talk about stealing things and hooking up with girls, which is great.
Yeah, man, you can only imagine.
He said, "Give me chastity, but not yet." That was his first line. So I mean, he's a man after my own heart, I should say. But I guess I'll just explain my position on my beliefs, at least in Christianity, a little bit further, if you don't mind, or if you want.
Sure. I was also curious to get Hellbound's.
Yeah, definitely.
On what is Wiccan? I mean, I don't know if you consider yourself a Wiccan or whatever, because I got the little star and shit. But I gotta be honest. I also think it's people grasping at something other than matter and energy. Like, it's hard for people to accept that matter and energy is pretty much all we know. For all we know, maybe there are other universes that it's beyond something of matter and energy, but at least within here, this is pretty much all we have to count on. And not only that, you could demonstrably show all these religions were fabricated, all the major ones at least. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I admit that myself. I admit that my own beliefs are my own. They are. I can't like show you proof of what I believe. I accept that. I know that, but I also understand that this is my own personal belief. It's not there's no doctrine that I have to follow. There's no certain things that I have to adhere to. I basically can believe whatever it is that I want to believe. And one of the basis behind, especially the witchcraft tradition that I follow, I was initiated into Gardnerian witchcraft. And that's considered to be, I usually say Wiccan because most people understand that term. It's a very common term. But it's a part of a Western occult tradition that goes back for thousands of years. But, a lot of people don't want to recognize that. It's where we got alchemy. It's where we got astrology. It was the backbone of our scientific revolution.
Isaac Newton was an alchemist. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the basis of that is looking at the world and wanting to peek behind it and understand the mechanism behind it. And that's really what occultism is. I mean, that is the best way that I can describe it, is that I'm willing to look a little further than what I can measure and what I can weigh on a scale. And I really just want to kind of peel back and look at what is the raw mechanics of our universe. That's really what I want to do. And I'm just open to that. And, it's, I also understand, I think that religion, the religion that has been a part of our cultures throughout the entire world, it serves a purpose for some reason. There are people in this world who need it, and there are people in this world who don't need it. They're just like, that's really stupid. You believe in this, this guy who lives up in the sky and he controls everybody, and that's bullshit. It's just manipulation of the masses. It's the elite and the rich who want to control people. They controlled through religion. But there's also other people out there who need that, who in their times witnessing their father die in front of them, want to seek out and want to pray to some kind of a deity to please help them through this.
Well, they find solace in it, and I mean,
exactly.
I can't fault people for that, because I mean, it is a psychological coping mechanism. I mean, and sometimes, you do need something to believe in, because if everything is just cold logic, I mean, it's discouraging. I mean, at least in my opinion. And listen, and Nachi knows, like, Nachi's come down on Christianity and that, but I haven't held it against him. I'm a reasonable guy. You can criticize, what I believe in, and that's fine. I accept that. I'm not gonna other people of other religions sometimes who take things a bit too literal. But for me, I can understand it as a coping mechanism, something that I enjoy going to church. I enjoy I'm I guess what you would call what's it, an Episcopalian, I guess, or an Anglican as we call it. We're Church of England, like Catholic light. There's no saints, and there's not, like, we don't have new saints every year. We don't have the Pope. We've got the Archbishop, but I mean, it's the structure that I personally enjoy. And actually, I know a lot of guys who are ex-military who are also, pretty Catholic and pretty Episcopalian, because they like that structure, that routine, and it's something that they're used to. So, I can't speak for all of them, but I mean, at least that's what I've gathered from them. And they enjoy it, more or less as a religious thing. Yes, it's just something routine that keeps them keeps them going. And some people can use it like that. Or if you're in Peru, you can use church as a place to go and have a nap.
Yeah, well, it sounds like on a scale from 1 to crazy, you're more towards the one end of most people who believe in a theistic deity.
I'll take that. I appreciate that. I'm not an asshole. I'm not one of those guys who believes that I am such a good Christian. Look at me, and I'll start twisting my nipples every time I do a good deed. I'm not one of those, because listen, I grew up. The smug hypocrisy drove me nuts, because they were just the smuggest kind of people. Like, they used to go around, look how good a Christian I am with my nice suit and my nice, every Sunday I'm out of the church. And then they get home from church and they cheat on their wife. And it was just this blatant hypocrisy that I just couldn't stand. So when I was about, like, and this is a good story, I'm sorry to ramble on.
No, go ahead.
But this is the best part, because you see, I got so tired of it. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And the way my father was, he's a pretty religious guy. He said, look, but he said, where you go, but you got to go to some church. So just figure it out. At the time, I was lazy, and I said, I need to go to a church that meets the requirements, but I get home fast. So I tried to do a few. I went to a Mormon. So that was just odd. So I didn't do that again. I went to Salvation Army. That was an hour and a half service. I said, no, that's too long. And then I went to the Catholics. That was 45 minutes. That was mass. I was like, all right, this is all right, but I don't really like that. So, and early communion, and it was at 8:30 in the morning, and it was 25 to 30 minutes. I said, oh, I'm home. So that I can do I can get my sins washed away, and then get home in time for and stuff, because I was still young. And
so I got a question for you. Sorry to interrupt, Ernest.
Sure. Go ahead.
So, okay, in order to practice, do you have to go to a church? I mean, like, if you like, I assume maybe you connect, or you want to connect with your deity in a certain way, but do you feel like you have to go to a structure, a church, or a group to do that, or do you feel
necessarily?
Okay,
not necessarily for me. I feel that where you make it, and I now, me personally, I do go to church. I just do, because I just enjoy. I enjoy it. It's that quiet contemplation that I get in the morning. It's more of a place for me to meditate than anything else.
I think you're proving my point, though. I would say that I don't know if you're wittingly or unwittingly proving the point that religion is a psychological blind spot. It's interesting how you're almost about to say, I know it's all bullshit, but I still go anyway.
Well, I can't call it. I can't call it all bullshit. Like, I mean, listen, some of it is out to lunch. I don't disagree with that. But, we are given free will for a reason. And I mean, for me, the way I see it is that the basic tenements are what I respect with Christianity. Not the whole, it's a witch, burn it. Or, we should go and conquer, random territory because in a dream. I don't like, that's just out to lunch to me. But it's just the basic, do unto others as you would do unto yourself, which actually it's not a good idea around here because I probably run someone over. But but you know what I mean? It's just do good deeds, don't fuck up, and just try to be a nice person. And that's what I.
Yeah, see, but when you like this is because I get into because of the nature of my channel, I get into a lot of conversation with a very wide range of theistic believers, Christians, Pentecostals, all this other stuff. And one of the questions always comes up is morality. And like you had just mentioned, you're like, oh, if I could do whatever I want, I'd be running people over for pissing me off. I don't think so, Ernest. I don't think you would run over somebody. I think if you found out,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Honestly, I was only being sarcastic.
I understand that exactly, but my point is, I'm carrying off of that or piggybacking on that. But morality comes from another place. So I get annoyed with people who say that their religion is their morality. No, if your religion was your morality, you would be, you'd be okay with your daughters having sex with you when you're drunk and stoning people. And I mean, we don't get our morality from religion. We have a social structure.
On the light side about that, on the whole daughters thing you're referring to a lot. At least his wife was gone. His wife was widowed, so that he was a widower technically at the time because God decided to turn her into a pillar of salt.
And that makes it better.
Maybe he's just tired of her, man. Maybe listen, I've been married. I know what it's like. If my ex had turned into a pillar of salt at the time, I wouldn't have complained. I wouldn't have done what
you
Locke
really
did.
even believe that story, though, just out of curiosity?
No. Listen, I don't believe that, because if this was the case and Sodom and Gomorrah was real, San Francisco would have been wiped off the map a very long time ago.
Yeah. So you realize that a lot of the stories in the Bible, in the various books of the Bible, because it's made up of about 66 books, are allegories, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, listen, I've had discussions with Catholic priests. I've had discussions with Anglican priests, with Pentecostal priests before, like when I was, going through these things and to figuring out what I believed in myself. And yeah, it's stories made to illustrate, different points. I don't really know what the Lot one has to do with it. It's pretty much don't get drunk. Maybe that's the moral of that story. It's maybe it's an allegory to the Me Too of today. Don't get drunk.
Yeah, really. It could. I mean, there's a lot of stories in the Bible that are just basically just like sort of filling in the gaps or like trying to explain how certain things happen. Because I mean, first of all, there was no people in the beginning, right? And it was just Adam and Eve. But then suddenly, like later on, they run into this other group of people, and it's like, wait a second, where did those people come from? So there's a lot of stories in the Bible that duplicate themselves, that fill in gaps and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I talked with some Christians who take the Bible literally. I mean, every single word is literal to them, and I think that that's just absolutely insane. I mean, if I agree with you, Ernest, if you look at the stories allegorical, yeah, they make sense. I mean, all the stories in the Bible are based off of other mythologies that were around in the world at that time. And there were allegorical mythologies. We still have allegorical mythologies.
But now let me ask you this, Ernest. Do you believe in heaven? Is that the thing?
Your mic did something weird.
Yeah, his mic's been kind of weird today. I didn't. I don't believe it's like streets paved with gold and white guys playing harps all day. I believe there's some Run DMC being played up there every now and then.
Well, you hold on to that idea, I would assume, because that was, for me, that was the last thing that was very difficult. The day that I realized there was no God, I was kind of happy. Like I never really cared for the idea of God, or much less Jesus Christ. But the idea of there not being a heaven, the idea of not being, that, in other words, when my parents and everybody else that I cared about died, that I would never see them again, that bothers me.
Yep, and that's a difficult one. Like, I mean, for me, I believe heaven is more of like an Elysian Fields kind of a thing. It's more like, I mean, there's no one there judging everything you did, like every little moral. Now, yes, I believe, because I mean, if you are not punished in this life, you'll be punished in the next. If there is one, I can't. I'm not going to go out and say, listen, this is emphatically true, because I can't prove it. I'm not going to say that things are true that I can't prove. I'm not full of shit. But I believe in, yes, I believe in a form of heaven, I guess is the best way I can describe it. I do believe in some form. Now, is it like Elysian Fields? Is it like
Yeah, that's that. For me, I think that's irrelevant. The way people think of heaven, it's just the fact that people latch onto that. I think that's the wishful thinking. That's the psychological blind spot.
Now here's a question. Here's an idea. Then here's a theory. Could it be, heaven is within your head when you die and you're decomposing, and it, the cells that are still, remaining in that, could that create this? We don't know. But
you can
just to kind of define our terms for a second here. When you say psychological blind spot, Nachi, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like that. Like I look at someone like Ben Shapiro, who is so incredibly intelligent, very quick with his wits. I mean, at his age, he's already published a bunch of books. He can handle himself on CNN and stuff like that. And yet, and especially when it comes to, pretty complex issues, when it comes to politics and stuff like that. And yet for religion, he still holds on to this weird thing. And then listening to him talk about the one thing that makes him realize there must be a God, which I think, therefore I am, because of Paul Descartes. I think it was Descartes. Anyway, that already, that just, oh yeah, God, for sure.
Yeah, but sorry, Nachi, I'm gonna criticize your criticize your position. So saying that somebody has a psychological blind spot is assuming that there's something in my mind, it reflects something that reveals or hides a certain truth. So you feel that people who hold a belief, a certain truth to them? I mean, what do you think exactly is that blind? What is it preventing them from seeing? I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's probably very difficult for most people to accept that they're going to die, or that their loved ones and friends are going to die and they're never going to see them again. Also, I think the injustices of the world. I mean, most people want to not just believe in heaven, they want to believe in hell, and they want to believe that someone like Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin, but that these people are going to get their comeuppance.
Yeah. Well, we all are going to die. I mean, you, yes. I, Ernest, we all know that. Everybody in your chat room, if they're not aware of it, they need to be aware. We're all going to die. That's just a fact. Unfortunately, that's a fact. Or maybe fortunately, it's a fact. However, what happens after death is what people like Ben Shapiro and Ernest believe in, is a heaven or a hell. So they're not afraid of death. They just have a belief of what happens after death. So you could talk to Hindus, you could talk to, even New Age people and fellow Wiccans and stuff like that who believe in reincarnation. They accept death. Death is a fact. It is what happens after death that they have a certain belief about. So right. I wouldn't say that's a blind spot, because if you have a religious belief where you say that I'm never going to die, yeah, I think that's a blind spot.
I agree.
But they have a belief of what happens after death.
And I think that for me, like, I mean, it's more of that comforting thing, because I mean, if I had to just believe that, listen, I'm just gonna die and it's just gonna be black and it's just, it's shit. It's not encouraging, to go through life and say to yourself, well, rot, fuck it, cool. I maybe I'm gonna be wrong, and you know what? If I am, hell with it, I'm wrong. But that small little comfort that says, you know what, listen, if I do a bit of good in the world, maybe I'll get some sort of reward. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't know. We all can't say that for certain, because we really don't know. We can criticize each other's beliefs. We can say that they're not valid. But we know when the time comes. And I hope for all of us that the time comes in quite a long time.
Maybe blind spot isn't the right word, then denial, the denial of, or refusal to accept reality.
Don't pull a Sargon, Nachi. Don't.
Yeah, but but even, okay, so Nachi, I'm really glad you actually started this topic, because this is something that's really been rolling around in my head, and I've just recently started inviting some people onto my channel to talk about this. But I think it's a really important discussion that I think that our society as a whole needs to talk about, is looking at religious beliefs realistically. And I think there's a certain element in the skeptic atheist community on YouTube, which is criticizing people who hold various religious beliefs, and they sort of, to a certain extent, strawman them because they break them down to the simplistic things of believing in heaven and hell, or not accepting reality, and various stuff like this. And I think that it's more complex than that. People who hold religious beliefs, it's deep. They hold those beliefs for reasons, and it's not just because they're afraid of death, or you know what I mean. So it's just I think that there's a way that we can look at religious beliefs from a more grounded perspective, and I think that that's what a lot of people need to do.
I would say I would love to hear more. Like, and I was surprised when I saw it with Ben Shapiro and Sam Harris. They don't really get into the psychology of why people are holding on to these. And again, I don't want to do what so many other atheists, myself included, would do, which is just insult. Because I think that's also part of the
sorry. And I'm just saying that I appreciate it. Like, I mean, this is why I like coming on your streams and that, because you give me a shot. You don't just be like, haha, you believe this magical fantasy. You are inferior to me in my grand intellect, haha. And, go on my merry way. At least I'm here, I can have a chat. We can all have a reasonable, intelligent discussion, which I think, why I think these smaller YouTubers are honestly better than some of the big, because we can have a lot more of a respectable conversation. Feel pressure to, mock.
No, and that's probably why we're small YouTubers, because nobody, it's like these things really bug the shit out of people. Nobody wants to talk about this. But look,
dude, I live on an island. I'm used to being small.
Hey, I'm curious, not sorry. I'm curious, Nachi. Right before Ernest interrupted you, it sounded like you were going to go on with that thought. I'm curious to hear it.
Well, here's the thing. What I was going to say is there's this one comment here that I think kind of sums up that psychology. And I don't want to mention the guy's name, even though he's putting it publicly, but whatever, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm condescending or anything. But is that you're asking the basic question of why there is evil. By the way, I'm not asking why there is evil. I don't believe in evil as some sort of mysterious ether that causes people to do things. And by the way, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine who's very religious, and he really believes that people who murder and stuff, they're possessed by demons. And that's like, it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But really quick, and he said, why would a good God allow evil? I think that therein lies the psychological blind spot or denial, whatever word you want to use. I don't think that a good God is allowing evil. The more I try to understand the way reality actually works, things seem evil, and they should seem evil if you want to survive on this planet. If you didn't think somebody like Ted Bundy was evil, you're going to get killed. if you want to like just be like, oh no, Ted Bundy, hey man, who am I to judge? You're dead. But but there is nothing. There's clearly no grand plan, because for me the litmus test is the Holocaust. I mean, there's just
I will.
By the way, the one irony I rarely hear people talk about is it was the chosen people of God getting slaughtered by people wearing. I always forget the name that the Nazis had on their buckle belts.
Hockenkreuze.
But it was basically they thought God was on their side. You know,
right. God mit uns. Right. God is with us.
God is with us against God's chosen people. And those are the psychology. Those are things I wish I would hear. The ones that do have the platforms, like the Sam Harris's and the Ben Shapiro's, talk about that, because clearly this is where to me it seems like it just goes to show it really is just matter and energy. You know, we're like bacteria trying to. I mean, right now there's a battle going on inside of all of our bodies between white blood cells, red blood cells. That's just it's this constant flux of creation and destruction between matter and energy, and it just manifests itself out within society when you see wars, when you see dictatorships, when you see, you know, serial killers. It's just these bundles of atoms, you know.
Yeah, and just exactly. And it's really funny because I love like these programs on Nova and Our Universe. I just love watching those programs, and they've been searching for other planets that hold life. You know, I mean, by their estimate, there's like millions and billions of planets that should support life, but we haven't been able to find one yet.
Right.
So far, Earth is it's a freak of what it should be in the universe. We should not exist.
Yeah,
so
that's the other thing. Yeah.
I mean, our race has evolved, and to the point where, you know, we're just like evolving, and the universe hasn't killed us off yet. You know, so yeah, it is kind of we are so far extremely unique in our entire universe.
By the way, let me just see the name of the person who put out that question, Victor Rand. I guess I shouldn't. I mean, people are putting the comments.
Why you're scared of doxing people who have a?
I'm just trying to be polite.
I understand. You're trying to be respectful. Yeah.
Speaking of, look, I had this on tab, and what you were talking about of like, you know, the fact that we're a gigantic fluke, and you know we're not supposed to be here. Check this story out. I mean, I don't know if you saw this. Earthquake-causing meteor leaves southeast Michigan residents awestruck. Yeah. And apparently,
cool.
I can play it because it doesn't have any sound. Look at it here. See if it shows it.
There's nothing worse than not having a...
It happened at Burlington Coat Factory?
It happened right there at Burlington Coat Factory.
That would have been a great ad if it just seen the meteor going through and like just destroying everything.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the meteor went over, and it still has a magnitude 2.0 earthquake.
Yep.
That just, I think that's the thing when I say the psychological blind spot or the denial. I think that's what it is. For a lot of people, that's very jarring. And it was for me for a long time when I was still religious, but I was like still like, because I've never been fully religious.
Yeah, but okay, Nachi, this is what I hang on when you say that. What blind spot? What is it? What are you saying is, what are they blind to?
The fear that it's not simply the fear of death, but like that you're not that special. And I think that is just a survival mechanism. Mm-hmm. You know, it was hard for me to accept that when I was younger, like I'm not that special. I'm not, you know, God's not really watching over me. You really are on your own on this planet. And that's I was lucky. You know, I was lucky
if I can actually say one thing like about Victor Rand's question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why a good God would allow evil. Now, if we want to look into it in more of a humanistic way,
I'm sorry. Let me
argue
say one thing that Victor Rand did just right, which is funny, and I don't know if he's being ironic, but God said repeatedly to the Jews that they would be persecuted pretty much forever, but he would preserve them to prove his point. God has a dry sense of humor. Okay, I'm going to assume.
Yep.
I'm going to assume if there is a God, I always say this: if there is a God out there, he is got a fucking wicked sense of humor. Hey, what's up, Obvious? I guess the link's not broken. It started working with you then, I guess.
It took me some finagling, but I figured it out.
How'd you figure it out?
I had to go to my Chrome, convert it to desktop, and I don't know, press it a bunch of times and say the magic words.
Yeah, YouTube is well, I don't know. By the way, have you guys gotten that email? Like I got the email for YouTube creators, important updates that my channel.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Now I wonder if that's irreversible. Is that irreversible? Like if I'm
I haven't received any email about it yet, but I did see somebody post about it in Twitter, and then I'm also part of a Facebook group that's been talking about it. But yeah, I feel it's unfortunate for a lot of smaller channels that really are trying to just kind of make it. I mean, the big channels, it's a drop in the bucket for them. They've already got it covered. But like channels like yours that are just under 1,000, can you mute yourself? But like channels of yours that are just at that cusp, I don't know. It sucks.
But is it irreversible? Is it like something that like later on, let's say getting 10,000 or 100,000 subscribers, would I be able to then monetize at that point?
So I don't see how it would be a problem. I mean, now I'm never going to get monetized, and I've accepted this. But I'm pretty sure it would be reversible. I mean, YouTube is going to want to make money.
No, that's the thing, yeah, and that's why I'm not bothered by it either. Like I'm not like, but yeah, I figure it's got to be reversible. Maybe that they're just not going to monetize people who are under 1,000. Maybe
I don't think it's going to be reversible. I think it's actually the first rung of a ladder. They're probably going to keep climbing. I think they're gonna bump it up, and they're going to bump it up, and they're going to bump it up. I think because advertisers are just kind of more particular about who they want to, how much money they want to spend on advertisement. And Google's a big company, and YouTube is not really. I mean, they're making money with super chats and stuff like that, but they're a business when it comes down to it. They're a business, and so they want channels that are going to make them money. They're going to get the advertisers those clicks and those views that they want. And so, yeah, I can see like maybe next year or 2 years down from now, it's going to be like you have to have 5,000 subscribers, 80,000 views, and I think that it might just get that way.
No, and as long as people can still post stuff, because I'm getting to a point now with YouTube where I'm just going to use YouTube as a marketing tool.
Right.
The one thing I'm going to really focus on is my drawings. These things. This is what I'm going to really focus on, and then use YouTube as a way to market that and try to make the living off these things. But it's a shame though, man, because there was so many things I wanted to do with but whatever, fuck it. And plus, I was already starting to realize I was spreading myself too thin anyway.
Do you have a website where you feature your art?
No, look, I'm a terrible marketer, man. I gotta start doing that. That's one of my things this year that I'm gonna do.
Yeah, like if you get that on the go, man, I'll publish it to my people around here, because I know a lot of people would love to buy some good art. And I know what you mean, by the way, about like your channel not doing what you wanted to do. And I own one try of it. Like I'm gonna still do the Islander, but I'm gonna try to do like a Spanish language podcast too, like I was telling you. And it's either going to result in one of two things. I'm either going to become wildly famous, or I'm going to be shot in Lima as I meet. Because
or shudder to think about that journalist that got stabbed 20 times in front of his wife, in front of his family over in Mexico, dude. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Mexican politics, because if I talk about Mexican politics, I'm going to get shot. If you talk about Peruvian politics, I might get Richard Spencer like punched in the face in Lima, but that might be it, because the Maoists are all dead or hiding in the jungle. So as long as they stay out of the woods, I'm fine. Like literally. I really want to touch that one point that Victor made. I want to get to that because I don't want us to get too distracted from the as good as it is.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for trying to keep it back.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Now, if we want to look at it, maybe we can look at God in a more humanistic way. We can say that he had seen, countless times, people just keep slaughtering each other and doing like terrible shit, and he's just gotten cold of it. He's just apathetic to it now. He's just like, look, do what you want. I've lost faith in my creation. One can argue it like that, because I mean, if God he made us in his own image, as the Bible would say, then would he not feel, because we are in his image. We are his, we are.
Sorry to stop you there, because I also wanted Obvious to jump in. But before,
yeah, definitely.
And I'm sorry I got to stop you there, and I want to ask you this. And I'm not condescending. You really believe that? You really believe that we're created in his image, and he just got tired, and he's just like, hey, fuck it,
it's not exactly. It's just a theory I'm throwing out there for us to consider. That's merely it. I mean, if I was like, I mean, if God's like me, well, lose some weight.
Here's the last thing I'll say, and feel free to tear this one down. But this is why I like doing the live streams, because I try to have this conversation with family and friends. It freaks them out. There's very few people who can handle this fucking conversation. I'm by no means saying that I have the answer. Clearly not. It's just all religions seem so demonstrably fabricated. But aside from that, the more I try to observe, it really does seem to just be matter and energy. That's, at least within this universe, it seems that's what it really just boils down to. And matter and energy is constantly changing. That's why that saying, the only constant, that's the ultimate paradox, or one of them. The only constant in life is change, because it's constantly doing this. All the wars that we see, that's this. It's just that constant, just that fucking meteor that just flew over Michigan and caused an earthquake. That's that. It's this constant flux of creation and destruction between matter and energy. And that's just the way it's constantly going. The thing is that I think we as human beings, we're a fluke within all that shit. And we've managed to develop these brains with a frontal lobe that gives us a heightened sense of awareness, more so than animals, where we have this now. We have things like fucking YouTube and shit like that. And the good thing is that this does allow us to have civilization. It does allow us to override those threats.
Nachi, we have alt-right furries right now. Okay, we're not really we're starting to decline on the civilization rankings here.
What's wrong with alt-right furries?
Listen, man, they want to have an ethno-state, and listen, it's it's impossible to be, because you think about it, you're gonna have to have you're gonna have to have an ethno-state for the equine furries, and then you're gonna have an ethno-state for the wolf furries, and then you have to base yourself on the purity of the costume.
Yeah. But anyhow, getting back to the topic. Oops, go ahead.
The way I understand the alt furry movement was that they're trying to separate themselves from the more deviant furries. It's not so much that they want a pure, like in the sense of the alt-right, like a pure race of furries. They're just tired of being lumped in with the adult diaper shitting ones, the weird bondage ones, and the Tumblr style ones. they're trying to create a, I guess, more moral version of the furry community. Like they're tired of being referred to as a bunch of sexual deviants.
Well, they haven't helped themselves.
But to get back to what you were talking about earlier with Victor Rand's comment, I mean, I think that running along the assumption that God did make us in His image, and obviously it's a He, right? But anyhow, if we were made in God's image and He has all of these powers, He created the universe, He created everything, He has a responsibility to us. It's like if you were an adult and your child is growing up and it's doing stupid things. It's eating dirt and doing all these things and playing with razor blades. You stop that kid from doing that. You interfere. You intercede in his life, and you show them, you mold them, and you build them up to be an adult who live on their own, have the skills necessary to survive in the world. And that's how I look at the whole concept of good and evil. And I'm sure, Ernest, you're very well aware of the Bible. You're well aware of the whole history behind, Hasatan, the adversary of humanity, and how God allows Satan to basically exist in the world because he's a necessary tool of God, and how, just the whole concept of evil basically is a way of making God look like a good guy because he has to be the good guy. He's not responsible for murder. He's not responsible for hold on a second. He's not responsible for disease. He's not responsible for evil. He's not responsible for anything. It's all Satan's fault, and he's like the great scapegoat.
Okay, but I always ask preachers this because, being in homeless shelters in the past, in order to get your free plate of spaghetti, you got to go to the church sermon. And I always ask them, like, if God is the Alpha and the Omega, according to your religion, and he's created everything, and he is everything that is. So if it exists, it exists because of him, and he created it, and it's a part of him. They always say yes. So I go, okay, well, so he created Satan, which is evil. So in a sense, God is evil as well as good because he has to be everything that exists.
Now, could God be more neutral? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say he's implicitly evil or implicitly good.
He created Satan.
The point of the psychological denial, Ernest.
Like, you're doing some grade A Chinese Olympic gymnastics there.
Okay, and I understand. And you know what? I'll accept the criticism. I willingly do.
I don't take it the wrong way.
No. I'm not taking it the wrong way, man. It's just that, like I said earlier in the stream, this is kind of out of my depth. I mean, this is just my own way of things. I mean, politics, as you know, Nachi, I can handle myself no problem. This is untested waters for Ernest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I'm glad that you said the things that you said, because that's kind of what that's what I mean by the psychological blind spot / denial. However, those words, I think it's manifesting itself in the way you're describing it, because you're like, and don't take it the wrong way, but it seems like you're like grasping at straws. Well, what if God is neutral, and what if? And I think that's what it is. I think maybe your brain is like,
It might be, but I'm more throwing out the theory than anything. Like I said earlier, I'm just saying. I just said earlier, no, this is more or less a theory. Now, am I wrong? I probably am. We, like I said before, we all, honest to God, well, honest to deity, cannot. We can't say for certain. That's the only. That's the.
That's okay. And that's where, with all due respect, I think we can nowadays. What can be said with certainty is that every single major religion you could trace when it was fabricated, and not only can you trace when it was fabricated, you could trace, for example, the story of Jesus Christ, and you can mirror it to Horus from the Egyptian mythology. It's all there. It's clearly fabricated. Just
I agree with you, Nachi, about that. I agree with you 100% about everything has a source. And I think that if we even take it back, if we dial it back to just below zero, the ultimate question is when man or woman or whoever looked up to the sky, looked at a star and said, why am I here? What is out there? From that moment is when I believe every religion in the entire world was created, to answer that very simple thing of why are we here? What happens after I die? What is out there? And ultimately,
I have a question.
Hold on a second. Ultimately, everything comes down to that. So, yeah, one person figured it out this way and said that they have the answer. Another person said, oh, I have the answer. I have the answer. And I'm sure that way back when, there was probably one guy like Nachi sitting there going, it doesn't fucking matter. You know, there's nothing out there, guys. Nothing happens after we die. You guys are wasting your fucking time. And he just walked off. But anyhow, those other guys.
One L. Ron Hubbard guy who said,
hold on one second, please. Hold on one second. It's okay. So those other guys are sitting there talking, going, yeah, but okay, maybe it's this way. Maybe it's that way. I don't think there is an answer. But I think that if people in whoever it is, if it's an Ernest or if it's a me or it's a whoever else, search for an answer, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, if I try to say, hey, Nachi, you have to follow my idea of what's going on in this world, that's not fair. But I think that having that curiosity, there's nothing wrong with that curiosity as long as we keep asking answers. So anyhow, I'm done. It's my ramble.
No, what I was going to say is, that curiosity is what leads us to science, and what leads us to keeping us from like drilling holes in people's heads to let out the demons, to realizing, oh, wait a second, this kid has got ADHD or he's autistic. You know, that's how we find. I just think maybe another thing at that root of the psychological denial or whatever, I think what it is that it's probably also hard for people to maybe accept that there probably is no why. Just like religious people are willing to believe that nothing created God. God just always must have existed. Just there's no why on God. Maybe that's what it is to matter and energy. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
okay.
And I think
go ahead, obvious.
Okay, what I was going to say, do you ever think that religion was fabricated or created to fill in the blanks of the less than answerable things?
Yeah.
Because humans always have to have an answer to things. It's how we cope with things. Yeah. If we want to know why that's flooding every year where we live, there has to be a reason to deal with the psychological trauma of this flooding every year. And don't you think it's kind of easy for more primitive cultures to be like, well, the reason it floods every year is because it brings about a cycle of renewal because the great god Amun. And it's easy for people to cope with that. Just like it's kind of like how people find religion when they're about to die, because it comforts them knowing that, okay, well, I am about to die, but most likely I'm going to have some kind of mansion according to, blank religion. Like, don't you think it might just be a bit of a comfort mechanism with coping with the
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is. I think it is a comfort. But my point, my position is that I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with somebody coming from a position like Ernest, where he believes that God is in charge of everything, or anyone's position who has a religious belief. And I don't think that my position is right and or wrong. I just think it's my position. And I kind of get a little, not really annoyed, but that's why I keep bugging Nachi about the question, like, what do you mean by a psychological blind spot? What is this ultimate truth? Because going back to that analogy I used earlier, where there's one guy who's sitting there looking at the universe going, why do we exist? What's going on? And then the other guy like Nachi sitting there saying, well, it doesn't fucking matter. We're all going to die. It doesn't mean anything. Those two positions in my eyes are equal. Neither one of those is superior or a blind spot to a certain truth. I think that those are both valid positions. And it seems like there are some people who want to say that the people out there in this world who hold a belief of they want to, believe this mythology of whatever it is that they want to believe is somehow wrong. or a blind spot, or there's something negative about that. That's what I don't understand. And I don't think there is anything negative about it. I think it can be used in a negative, like we've seen. I mean, we turn on the news, it's going on in the world. It's having a negative impact, but that's, that's because people are taking it to an extreme point. But just the fact of people having a religious belief, there's nothing wrong with that. People are going to have religious beliefs.
Well, my biggest issue with religion is
no, go ahead,
my biggest issue with religion is it removes the individual's responsibility. More often than not, religious people, whenever something, it's the will of blank, or it was meant to be because of blank, or, well, there's nothing we can do about it because blank. Oftentimes, it's crutch to lean on instead of taking action that could further benefit oneself. A lot of times people just sort of fall back on it and go, well, it's God's will, so I guess that's the reason I'm sitting here in the gutter right now.
And okay, I can see that too. Now, me personally, I can't speak for all Christians, and I'm damn well not going to. Me personally, I believe that what I do is my own fault. I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't know, I ran over a nail, God's punishing me. Oh, woe is me, I must tie to the church. I'm not going to do that. But I mean, there are some people who are like that. Like I have Muslim friends who are like, God, everything they say is God wills it. Like, I mean, half the bloody Arabic language is about God. Come to me and they'll try to like, why is God doing this? I'll just be like, it's probably not him. He's probably chilling out watching Friends. You just fucked up.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to be wrapping this up. I just wanted to read a couple of these last comments, and I thought were pretty good. Eric Lee said, pretty much religion is an external manifestation of belief or guidance. That's all. And I'd have to agree. And Vitamin was saying, religion is a cancer that, if left to fester, will become terminal. Religion was our first attempt at science. We are much better at it now than back then. Let it die. And I couldn't agree more. And I think it's critical, that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to insult people, but I do think it's important to keep hammering the fucking nail into that coffin. Like,
So Nachi, I got a hypothetical question for you. We've come, let's say our civilization has advanced to whatever height you believe we should advance to. And there's still this pocket of people that live in, let's say, Poland, that still hold on to this Christian belief. Everyone else in the entire world does not believe, what these people believe. They're all, complete, utter, dyed-in-the-wool atheists. But you still have the small pocket of people in Poland who still believe in some kind of a God. And they're just, they're treated like scum. So what are you going to do? Are you going to allow them to continue to have their beliefs, or are you going to put them into some kind of a concentration camp and eliminate them? It's a hypothetical.
No, I would say if I were king of the world and that they had that little pocket, as long as they're not harming people and as long as they're not trying to kill people or even, as long as they're not trying to kill people based on that religion, I, of course, let them continue on, but clearly just keep on every time that they have a conversation with somebody. Yeah, that's the tricky thing. I believe in giving people the freedom to believe whatever they want to believe, as wrong as it may be.
Why?
Now Nachi could have been like, I think Nachi, if he was in charge of the world, Nachi would have been like the political commissar. He would have gathered all these wayward Poles into his room and just gave them a sermon on atheism. I think, and if that didn't work, it started pelting with fruit. He just would have been like, "Fuck it, I'm going home," and that would be it.
Having read or listening now to the Dictator's Handbook, it's fascinating to see how power. Now that's a whole other topic of conversation. How power actually works, and you do start to see why it's more than just the psychopathy of these fuckers. It's more than just that. why they don't help out more and stuff like that. Clearly, it's the only way they can stay in power. They have to help their. It's called in the book. They describe them as essentials. I would never be able to be the ruler of anything because I don't like to tell people what to do. I don't even like talking.
You'd be a shitty bureaucrat.
Yeah. I mean, it was more of kind of like a question of what level of acceptance you would hold. Really, I'm just wondering, would you consider yourself, Nachi? Would you consider yourself an anti-theist?
Well, yeah, because I really think we need to, in the most peaceful and civilized manner possible, show how religions are all false. I really wake people up to, dude, you'd be better off not basing your life on these false. And
if you could kind of, because I don't want to drag it out because I know you want to wrap it up, but if you could summarize what you think is the strongest position for your position, what do you think it is against religion? Like what makes your position more superior than a religious position?
Oh, when you base your decisions on accurate information, you could solve problems. You know, that's why that's why we have cancer treatment now, and we no longer, you know, just drill holes through people's heads or let them burn at a stake or stone them to death because they got some weird, you know, little spot on their skin. I think it's imperative. And when you were saying before, like, you know, which I thought was funny, I was already imagining like a little cartoon. This Nachi guy, you know, say, "Oh no, life doesn't mean anything." Granted, there seems to be, like, I know also my limits. You know, I'm not going to say that there is no meaning, and I know that. It's just apparently it's just everything is random, but we can still give it meaning. I mean, this is why I'm bothering to spend my time, you know, having these chats and having these ideas challenged. I'm curious.
I would like to propose
in life. Huh?
I'd like to propose something.
Yeah.
With how apathetic people have become, and people have always been somewhat apathetic, which is why you have religion, because it's always the go-to answer. But science is slowly replacing religion, and I think science has become people's new religion. They just sort of take faith in science. They may not completely understand the science behind something, but they have a cell phone. So therefore, science exists. And I think a lot of times people put a blind faith in science the same way they would religion, because it's a convenience.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it does get tricky, and it's almost trust me, I'm not trying to start my own new religion now either. But I think
Nachiism.
Nachiism.
Nachiism
comes a little close to the other ism. That,
really.
You, man.
But I guess if I were to write a book, I'd almost write a book called "How to Get the Most Out of This Meaningless Life," you know, or how to inject the most meaning into this, or something like that. You know, how to get the most out of life.
Nachi, I have that answer. It's LSD.
That's one of them. Take that once, and you will look at life. That was one of.
I've never done drugs, honestly.
Oh, well, by the way, when on one of my acid trips when I was younger, that was one of the first times that it dawned on me that, holy shit, everything is just molecules and atoms. And it's a little jarring, you know what I mean? And yet
there's one.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to say there's one final question I want to have, then I'm going to absolutely shut the fuck up and let you wrap up, Nat. Now, and this is kind of a political / religious thing. Like, say, for example, people who are anti-abortion for religious reasons. Would we, you know, if they are reasonable, polite, and, you know, not waving dead baby pictures around in your face, should they have a right to be able to peaceably protest? Does everyone believe in that? Or do we just believe we should just do abortion, and if you don't like it, well, fuck off?
No, anybody should have the right to speak up about it and protest whatever they want, as long as it's peaceful. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to have that in agreement, because in Canada, if you are, say, pro-abort, or if you're anti-abortion, they cut your funding for like youth programs and that, from like the federal government won't fund you, which is, for me personally, I think is starting to get onto a dangerous slope of freedom of religion. But that's a topic for another day. And yeah, I'll shut up and let Nachi wrap it on up.
Yeah, did you guys have any final thoughts? You guys, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just have one thing. Like I said, Nachi, I apologize. I didn't mean to, get in here and start fighting with you about it. But it's just I'm feeling very passionate about this particular subject. And one of the reasons, and I'll end with this, but one of the reasons why I have such a passion about this is I feel that there's a blind spot, psychological blind spot, in the atheist skeptic viewpoint, and that is that they are blind to understanding that the thing that has led to all of our creations, all of our knowledge, all of our exploration is that element of curiosity and that element of exploration, that element of imagination. Religion, whatever religion it might be, is the essence of that is imagination. What is, who is, where is, why is, all of these questions. And I feel like that is a psychological blind spot of the atheist skeptic community. There is benefits to religious beliefs, and the atheist skeptic viewpoint needs to understand that. If they don't, they are going to fall prey. They're essentially going to become what they hate, and that is they're going to become the zealots of their position.
The dogmatists. Yeah, they're going to be very dogmatic.
Exactly. And I think it's going to be detrimental. You have to be able to see another person's position in its entirety. And I think that's where, and I'm not necessarily picking on you, Nachi. I'm just kidding. Nachi. Freudian slip. I'm just using, yeah, right. I'm just using you as an example. But I feel that is one of the things that I feel is that people, when we start to discuss religion and religious beliefs, we have to see the benefits of religion in our society. If we don't see that, we're not going to see the whole picture.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree 100%. And I didn't think you were battling me either. As a matter of fact, I wanted the idea's challenge. If anything, the one thing, by the way, did you want to finish up with something there, obvious?
Yeah, I would like to say that there's no problem in having a belief in religion, as long as you can take the good from it and then, as they say in the Bible, take the wheat from the chaff. As long as you can discard all the crap that's in it and just kind of shift and away from some of the more ignorant aspects, you can dig around and find some good stuff in most religions. And I think a lot of the problems with the atheist skeptic movement is they just hammer in all the negative aspects, but they don't look at some of the more positives. Most charitable organizations that were created in the U.S. were not created by the government. They weren't created by scientific organizations. They were created by Christian and other religious movements. A lot of our early forms of social reform and welfare came about because of religion. Yeah, there's a lot of negativity with religion, but there's a lot of positivity it's brought. And I think as long as a religion is continuously trying to reform itself and bring about positive change in the world, there's really not a problem with it. And the same goes with science, which a lot of people have replaced their religious beliefs with a belief in blind science. So that's how I feel about it.
No, and I think that's true too. And I think that's the reason why we still have that schism between liberals and conservatives, the left and the right. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And I think especially when it comes to personal insults. And I've learned to stop doing that. When I was younger and it first dawned on me that there was no God and blah, 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 I wanted to challenge all like my friends and family. And the thing was that I was sort of, I guess you could say, winning debates, but it would always end really hostile. Like they would always, even though they had no answer, had some like, well, fuck you anyway, you know, like, or don't ever talk to me again or some shit like that. And that's not what I want to do either. And so I think it's very true. And I think that, you know, back and forth is what keeps us from, you know, not only knowing things that are true and accurate, but from solving problems. And that's the ultimate thing that I want to do. But hey, man, with her, look, I think this is the perfect way to end it, dude. Thanks again for first of all, you guys for being on, for everybody who commented, and for anybody who's watching. And God, I hope, you know, it's a shame I didn't get to answer the question, is religiosity a neurological disorder? Or maybe I'll save that for another stream. Thanks again.
Have a good night.
Yeah, and please like this and share this so Nachi can get over 1,000 subscribers.
Thank you.
That's going to be our goal. We're going to get you over 1,000 subscribers this week.
All right, thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man.
All right, Nachi.
All
right, guys. Nice talking to you guys. Glad we could have a good discussion.
Cool, man.
All right. Take care. Night all.
Night, everyone.
And with that, thanks for watching.